Sparks, clear lights in the dark. oil conduit common.
Do you do that commute every morning?
I do, yeah, I'm tarmacking down there.
Oh, good stuff. So have you much tarring to do today? He said that he's furious.
The welfare benefits were cut for those under 26 in the budget.
All you have to do is listen.
And Arthur Griffith was
For your journey, as long delays are expected.
for you, and if you're pulled out tomorrow, you can pick a ticket. Which?
It has come to our attention that radio broadcasts on the planet have degraded to such an extent that there is nothing on the airwaves but absolute rubbish. We apologize for the delay in our response, as the airwaves carrying this bullshit have only reached our star system today. We've dispatched two of our brightest agents in the field to rectify this problem.
Hello, everyone. Geez, where am I? Where's my camera? Jesus. There we go. Right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Anti-Broadcast. Coming to you live on YouTube, Facebook, and Kick. If you're not on Kick, check it out. It's a pretty cool streaming site, and truth be told, eventually we are going to be kicked off of YouTube, or it will become unusable for us. I was just listening to Alexander Makuris's daily news commentary. I don't know what to call it. Video, let's say. Daily video. Sorry, I burped right into the microphone. Please don't take that as a characteristic of the rest of the show. And he decided to touch on the subject of the Middle East when usually he focuses on, of course, the Ukraine war, because that's the biggest geopolitical thing going on right now. And he had to be very careful with the words that he used. Just, he opted to not talk too much about certain things which he characterized as, just way beyond the scope of civility and reason. And he put that down to the restrictions of YouTube. Now, of course, you have the anti-broadcast. Dia Tweet, Liz Pepper, and hello, KO. Nice to have you aboard. Now, you have shows like us. We say what we want, pretty much. There's a few words that Morgan had to learn not to say. However, that's not good enough. I don't know whether it's a fall in the content quality of our channel, but I'm suspecting that it's a punishment from YouTube. Oh, sorry, I forgot to give credit to that drone footage creator. But we've come off with it. Our growth has stalled, and that's a thing I hear about quite a lot. on YouTube. I even heard it from Metatron there a week ago, who is a very good creator, or at least was. He has a team of researchers, all very good videos about all sorts of history, but mainly European history and related things like language. And I think it was nearly a year ago now he decided, hey, if it's really it's my channel goes into the stratosphere when I put out 2 videos a day. So that's what he decided to start doing. He thought, well, this is when I press this button, then something nice happens. So I'll just keep pressing that button and always this nice thing is going to happen. That's not how life works. So I think reality has caught up with him because he posted on X, hey, has the algorithm changed because my growth has fallen off a cliff edge and I'm in fact losing subscribers. He's gaining enough where that doesn't matter, but he is in fact actually losing subscribers. And there was a lot of cope in the comments and the replies, that these are bots and inactive accounts that are being removed, and they go through a purging cycle, blah blah blah. I just think it's because his content has become shit. If you put out content for the sake of it, it's eventually going to be shit. Dooge, nice to see you there in the chat. I was just taking a peek at the chat. Great to see a few recognizable names in the chat there. We have a lovely little community, and I hope that it's yet another nice night with good people who I believe are making friends. Dooge says, hopefully no more half cans of Dutch Gold and cigarette burns in my armchair like last week. Yeah, it got pretty hardcore last week, didn't it? It was a little party, little house party where we were all in our own little houses. Or big houses, depending who you are. I don't know how wealthy some of you might be. But hey, if you have any of that extra, just, we could use some of it. Back to the subject. What we really need, because for whatever reason we have stalled in our growth progressively, and now we've come to a complete stall, is pass along the videos, pass along the live streams to people who are just as weird as you are. We want all the weirdos in one place. We want to grow this community. We also want to put in work and see that work has improved some people's lives, or at least add a little bit of entertainment to them. And in order for that to happen, we have to be in front of people's eyeballs. And right now, the algorithm isn't helping us. So if you could give us a help, that would be great. Right, that's enough of that. Morgan cannot join us tonight. He is Kieran. I'll pass it around like my ex. Oh, fuck. Oh, life brings you to such strange places, doesn't it, Kieran? So, yeah, Morgan, he's a busy man. He has he has issues that he runs into every now and then. And, when you're a family man, on top of a job, on top of several other projects that you've got on the go, sometimes you just can't make it on a Friday night, especially when you have children. That's a inconvenience that I would gladly trade my trade my freedom for. Be nice to have children. Too bad. Too late. I hope you're enjoying the drone footage of the burn. Probably the most fantastic part of Ireland. There's another video of drone footage of the burn here in West Ireland, and it's called Flying Over an Alien Landscape. And it certainly is an alien landscape. You have to be there. You have to visit it at least once because you can't fucking believe it until you actually do. Let's go! Cat's Eye in the house. Good to have you on board. Yes, the burn is breathtaking. On a clear, sunny day, it's just fantastic. A lot of the times I would be driving through it, and I have to pull over. No, not let me pull over and drink in this fantastic view. No, it's like, oh my God, I'm having an existential crisis. This is so majestic. It's so awful. It just stops me in my tracks. Whew. Okay. All right. Let's get that kind of head buzz out of the way. I transported, what is it, 20 miles that way to the burn there for a minute. All right. As the title suggests, last chance saloon for Ukraine. Things have taken yet another strange turn in the saga of the peace process that never actually fucking happens. To recap, Donald Trump got into the White House for a second term, and he blew a lot of us away with a lot of the things that he did. Just an amazing first few weeks in terms of domestic affairs and even international affairs, turning up the heat on Netanyahu and getting a ceasefire in Gaza. But that didn't last very long. Both sides, you know how ceasefires break down. One side says, this person violated the ceasefire, and the other person says, no, that guy violated the ceasefire. And then they just continue to violate the ceasefire, each of them, until they've lost track. And the next thing we know, there is no ceasefire because it's just fucking war again. But, we can kind of applaud Trump for that, even though afterwards, almost immediately afterwards, he threatened to turn Gaza and what was it, the Riviera of the Middle East, just basically ethnically cleanse the Palestinians, move them somewhere else, which is genocide, ethnic cleansing, and then make it into this beautiful, sprawling coastal paradise for tourists. Can't profit from a ceasefire, Kieran Martin says. And hostages released today. Which hostages? There were hostages released from Ukraine That is something we should actually look at right now. In fact, we'll sacrifice the chronological order here to take a look at what nobody really knew until now, but oh no, wait, that's the wrong tab. That's the wrong tab, Howard. There we go. Jeez Louise. War crimes by Ukraine. When losing the Kursk front, the AFU, Armed Forces of Ukraine, I don't know. I mean, it's yeah, it doesn't fit. Kidnapped civilians, mostly old women, as human shields, later using them for prisoner of war exchange today. These are the same people who falsely claim Russia stole Ukrainian children. Complete EU values on display. Let's take a look. This is the kind of hostage that Ukraine takes. Women, mostly. You know, some young women, but mostly old women. I saw one of the women cry. Well, let's actually look for the video here. Here we go. Not because I want to upset you, but to get a better idea of what we're looking at here. Okay, I'm just going to mute that. There's really no point. Fuck you, X. So yeah, you can see what kind of creatures these people are. You have maybe a few men, but the majority women. And yeah, shit, yeah, there's some crying, you know, but for the most part, there's a quiet dignity and resolve in the Russian people that you know, you could pick them out of a crowd of Slavs, you know. Yeah, that's a Russian there. So that's an unmistakable. Oh, let's get that off the screen. It's heartbreaking. An unmistakable inner strength. KO says, "Whoa, did not realize that it was women that used as shields. Biggest tits." Kieran. Yeah, so for those who don't understand the conflict, the particulars of the conflict in Ukraine, in August of last year, Ukraine just did something completely fucking nuts, which, you know, on one level is genius, but on another level is just completely retarded and a waste of resources and human lives. They made an incursion into the Kursk region or oblast, which neighbors the border with their country. And they basically had one man per square mile. They just kind of fanned out, and that was so-called an occupation. And of course, after a few days, we noticed that men were being pulled off of the front lines in the south, near the Donbass, and redirected into Kursk. Now, this was completely fine from a Russian perspective. You know, there was going to be, of course, a loss of life. There was going to be destruction of the towns and the villages there, hamlets, really. It's a very sparsely populated place. I don't even think there's a large city in that area. So they evacuated who they could, and they just took that as a loss. When was it? In March, I believe, they finally pushed out all of Ukraine's armed forces, and it was in the matter of a week or a week and a half that they uh, made the last rush to push them out, and that was in line with Donald Trump's efforts to bring Russia and Ukraine to the table. But it was fine as it was for Russia because it split up Ukrainian forces, and Russia's advances on the Donbass front line only escalated from there. So there was a few days there where a lot of Ukrainian forces were kind of in a what they call a cauldron. They were really just tactically surrounded, and they had to escape. There was a lot of withdrawal and fleeing that was not authorized by her higher command. They just knew that they had to get the fuck out of there. So I imagine that a lot of those units on their way out thought, well, we're going to die, so let's just take some of these civilians with us so that Russia will not just fucking bomb us or hit us with suicide drones. Or hammer us with their artillery. And you know what? That's smart. I'm not going to do like this guy Spetsnaz, this young man from Russia who allegedly serves in the military. Maybe because I'm not emotionally connected, maybe because these aren't my people, but I can kind of see the logic here. You're going to die, so just grab whatever fucking shield you can. It's disgusting. It's reprehensible. But hey, what are you going to do? Die? I'd understand if you were fighting a noble and just war. Because then you can lay down your life at the hands of your enemies and, be assured that Valhalla or heaven or what have you awaits. But, if you're in service of a genocidal neo-Nazi regime, you should naturally fear your creator. You'd want to avoid meeting him for as long as possible. I try to see things from everyone's angle. It's important because the disgusting thing about war is that, especially at the beginning, nobody can really see from the other person's perspective. And that's what allows wars to go on for as long as they do. Kieran says Sun Tzu would gravitate. All right. So, when was it? 18th of May, right? Jesus. Yeah, 18th of May. Donald Trump called up Vladimir Putin, or maybe the other way around. It's not really certain who made the call to have the call, if you will. And it lasted 2 hours. do. 2 hours is quite a long time for world leaders to hang on the phone with each other. These guys obviously like each other, and that's a good thing. You want your co-belligerents to like each other. And let's not get it twisted. This is a war between the United States and Russia. And even today, it's not really up to Trump. There are a lot of people within his own administration, as well as in the Congress, who want this war to continue. So really, the man is stuck having to negotiate with his own people. But on the flip side of that, you have Putin, who is not an autocrat. He's not a supreme leader either. Very few leaders are. They have certain classes or estates to contend with. Putin has had to negotiate with his own people, both the peasants and the oligarchs and the other political movers and shakers underneath him, who have increasingly wanted total capitulation from Ukraine. They want this ended completely. They don't want a nice, softly kind of negotiated peace. They see that they have won the war, and they see that they have suffered many indignities at the hands of the Ukrainians, that they just want to set Russia's terms completely and accept none of the Ukrainian terms, which is completely understandable. But, you can't really do that these days. Even if Russia were to occupy every inch of Ukraine, if they were to roll into Kiev in tanks and replace the government, it would just look really bad on the world stage. It's not something that other countries take too kindly to. So there's this push and pull behind the scenes, and recently his spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, who you could say is the is the Jekyll, Mr. Jekyll, to what's that dichotomous character? Dr. Jekyll, okay, and Mr. Hyde. Okay, Peskov is the Mr. Hyde to Dr. Jekyll. Right. He comes out and says some bizarre fucking shit. So bizarre that a lot of people have accused him of just kind of getting blasted on vodka at night and ranting on his Telegram channel or X account. But really, what he's doing is he's voicing, all along, he has been voicing the sentiments of the Russian government and a large bulk of Russian society. He's taken a much more harder line against Ukraine in this way. It was last year he began to demand the return of even Odessa. He's come out and said that the current conversation that has happened between Trump and Putin has resulted in a tentative plan for peace talks, the time and location of which is still being discussed, very heatedly discussed, I might add. And this is Ukraine's last chance to survive as a state. He said this on various platforms in various venues, including a law conference attended by Alexander Makuris over the week. This is a new level right here. We've never heard any Russian officials so far suggest that Ukraine could possibly cease to exist as a state in the context of an ultimatum. Either you do this or it's the end of you. How else the conflict has evolved, I'm just going to bring up a map real quick here. After the phone call with Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin has announced that there shall be a buffer zone within the territory of Ukraine, a 150-mile buffer zone as a boundary of protection along all of Russia's shared border with Ukraine. And I can't seem to find that map. But the border comes very, very close to Kiev. Right now, the Sumy Oblast is subject of a serious Russian advance. Every month now, we're seeing a ramp up of Russian gains. That's not something that comes across in the Western media at all. But we're starting to see cracks in the Western media armor. You'll pick up on it from some outlets praising Russia's tactical prowess. Sumy, right next door to the Kursk Oblast, which Ukraine was just recently kicked out of. They're very close to, or in the city of Sumy itself. Now, as pointed out by Alexander Makuris a few days ago, once they take Sumy, the capital, Kiev, is just down the road. Literally just down the road. There's no other towns or cities between. This should scare the shit out of Ukraine, the Ukrainian leadership, as well as Ukrainian citizens. You know, you know your own country, right? So if you hear that the major region right next to your capital region has been captured, you know that the end is coming soon. Duge says, peace talks? More like surrender conditions. Yep. Yeah. That's the power of international relations. If enough countries say that the sky is green, then that's just the reality that we have to live under. And enough people, as in world leaders, are saying that no, Ukraine is still in this battle. It's still in the fight. It still has something left to give. Then even Russia themselves have to play along in this pantomime to some degree with the perception that Ukraine has chips to play with when they in fact don't. It's what allowed this disgusting, depraved war to go on for so long. I'm speaking to the choir, preaching to the choir here, certainly, when I say that if there was no outside aid given to Ukraine, then it would have been over within a year. It would have just been another easy Russian victory, say the summer of 2022. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now. There would be millions of people still alive. There would be millions of people still in their homes. There would be millions of buildings still standing. Ukraine might still have an economy. Russia might not be doing as well as it is now. This is a harsh reality that Western leaders need to get their heads around. I don't want to say Western leaders, I mean those pricks in Europe, those cokeheads. They have made Russia stronger by forcing it to be stronger. And hello to 420 Audits Ireland. Good to have you aboard, mate. We're having to make do without Morgan tonight. Yeah, 420. We would have some hotel rooms to stay in for our holidays. Yeah. See, this is why I'm just generally anti-war across the board, you know? I put a Palestinian flag in the X profile of the show, the anti-broadcast. Follow us on X, Twitter, if you aren't already. Not because I'm all mad about Palestinians. First of all, I want to call out genocide wherever it's happening and whoever it's happening to. It's just not something that we should be doing in this day and age, or should have ever been doing, for that matter. But secondly, I don't want these people to have yet another reason to come and displace me from my own country. You know, I don't know how this penny hasn't dropped for a lot of people. Yes, the majority of people out there that you see on the streets flying Palestinian flags and shouting free Palestine and from the river to the sea, they're not nice people. They, in fact, hate themselves and they hate you and me because they have a loathing of who we are. But why does that mean that we then have to take the opposite of their stance? "420 says, get well soon, Morgan." Yep. Thoughts and prayers. Yeah, it would be nice for him to not have to struggle as he does. But yeah, it comes for us all. Oh no, I'm taking the piss. Right, where do we go from here? What did I say that? Oh, you know what? You know what? Have you guys heard of this this terrorist attack? I mean that that's what they call it anyway. Which one is it that I'm looking for? Okay, yeah, I don't have my uh, files properly tagged here, folks. So a little bit of patience. All right, so what was it? 2 days ago. 420. It's tough having 17 kids. Yeah. Yeah, he should have tied those tubes long ago. Kieran Martin. Just winding Howard up for the night, man. How's you? Oh, jeez. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if someone's just fucking here just to yank my chain. All right, what was it? 2 days ago now? Jesus Christ. Sorry, I have a little something. It'll pass. It'll probably take me with it, though. Shameless stealing of Dylan Moran's joke there. And not very well executed either. Okay, so this Free Palestine guy, don't know what his ethnicity is, but his politics is definitely left wing, far left. What would you have it? He was in DC. He decided to shoot 2 Israeli diplomats. So let's take a look at this.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Does anyone know that what do they call it? Call and respond? What was being shouted back at him here?
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Something about Hamas. Interesting. I'm not quite sure what it is that we're looking at, but the location of the shooting was a Jew museum in DC. Now it's very odd footage here. We have this fella off to the side. I don't know how to pronounce it. Khalif, the scarf thing that Arabs wear. Maybe someone in the chat can help me. Now, what's this guy doing here? Let's forget about who he is for a minute. But like, what is he doing there? Like, what is he doing in that location, in that controlled area? It's under control of law enforcement. And what is he doing picking that up? And, with his bare hands, mind you, was he trying to tea towel? Nice one, KO. Trying to hand it to the fella, I'm guessing. Of course he couldn't take it. So one of the police officers take it, the security takes it. Ah, yeah, there you go. I don't know who that's supposed to be. Probably security, Secret Service, maybe. Mossad. I'm not quite sure. 420 audits. Howard, all the footage you guys show is odd. For fuck's sake, last week it was a Muslim death cult. Yeah, Hashem. I can't pronounce his full name. Fucking weird, man. Weird. Uh, half American, half Egyptian. Cult leader living in Manchester in a compound that used to be an orphanage. Muslim cult leader claims to be the next Messiah, and used to be a conspiracy theorist in the early 2000s. Strange fellow. If someone could give me the phonetics of kefia, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, let's look that up so that I'm actually pronouncing this properly. Okay, let's look up pronunciation. Kafia. All right, thank you, Google AI. Even though that's just probably wrong because it is routinely wrong. Hello, Miss Pagina. All right, let's look at this spook. All right. Now, I have my doubts about this incident. There isn't a whole lot of details out there about it. But it does come 2 days after this incident that happened in a settlement. That something like 26 Western diplomats, including 2 Irish diplomats, were visiting, and they were shot at by IDF or settlers. Now, I got into an argument with one of those Zionists online that that have whatever what is that alphabet that they use for their weirdo language as their name. Their name was spelt in that. I said that the IDF shot at a bunch of diplomats. He came along and says, "No, they didn't." So I told him, "Yeah, great, good on you for being a typical fucking Zionist, denying reality when it suits you." And he said, "Well, then, give me a demonstration of them shooting at the diplomats." And he said that they shot warning shots. Well, that's just semantics. I'm sorry, but you can't shoot at or near. Shooting near is at. Okay, that's the same fucking thing. Diplomats of all fucking people. Now, any other country who does this. Oh, I need to turn that message off. Sorry about that. Any other country that does this, there would be an international incident, and you know what? Maybe there almost was. Maybe there almost fucking was. But then 2 days later, you have 2 diplomats shot dead in DC by a fella singing "Free, Free Palestine." I don't know. I'm very familiar with the pro-Palestine people. I've never heard that song before. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Never heard that before. Have you? It's all a bit weird. Oh, for fuck's sake, Miss Pagina. I'm not even going to read that out. I'm not going to show it on the stream. Behave yourself. Right. That has to be something. A lot of people are bringing up the strangeness of it. I've yet to come across somebody who has made that connection. Between the diplomats being shot at and then the diplomats being shot and killed in DC. And you know what? I really wouldn't put it past the Zionists to sacrifice 2 of their own to avoid an international incident. KO asks, weren't there Irish peacekeepers there? No. No, we're talking about we're talking about Palestine, Israel, whatever you want to call it, depending on who you ask. There are no peacekeepers there. If there are, then that was just illegal. As you know, we're subject to the triple lock. Maybe Morgan's messing with me here, but he's posted something I need to take a look. Jump to present. Fucking breaking news. Hadith reveals Muhammad was involved in gangbang by a bunch of naked black dudes. Fuck. What? What the fuck? No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Okay. We're not touching that with a fucking barge pole. All right. Tim Pool. I'm not really bothered by him. I never really care what he has to say, but this is the pinnacle of all pushback against the idea that this was a false flag. You know, it's shit brains. Tim Pool says they're going to claim it's a conspiracy or false flag that people who call for violence engage in violence. Indeed, a lot of us have said, yes, this is a false flag, and yes, indeed, the people who are being false flagged are indeed violent. And they call for violence. This is true, Tim. And I'm so pissed off that my reply got absolutely no love whatsoever because I personally think it's fantastic. Because false flags implicate totally peaceful people who aren't involved in any conflicts. You know? Yeah. Consider J.D. Vance meets President Modi of India, and then a day later, there's a Islamist terrorist attack in the disputed region of northwest India on the border with Pakistan, and it's blamed on Pakistan because it was very clearly, or on the surface, an Islamist terrorist attack. Very strange timing, I would say. Almost too suspicious. J.D. Vance, as you know, has been labeled the Grim Reaper because everyone that he goes near dies. And yeah, there's a very viable geopolitical reason why the United States would want India and Pakistan at each other's necks. Now, luckily, things have, so far anyway, cooled down. You know, they're showing signs of getting a grip of themselves. You know, I think Modi in particular has gotten the gist that he's not going to go all out and, you know, chisel his name into the history of India as the guy who finally defeated Pakistan and settled the old dispute once and for all. You know, it just wouldn't look good on the international stage. It would probably end in nuclear war. But we have to seriously consider false flags happen. You know, let's look at this very real, very mainstream media coverage of. I don't think they wanted it or suspected it would be this blatant. This is an interview with a Mossad, an anonymous Mossad agent.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from, or think they were buying it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
I have no reason to believe that 60 Minutes would make up an interview with a hooded Mossad agent. And I think if they did, someone in Israel would have something to say about it. Who's the walkie-talkie belong to? I remember my phone being that big. I hope you all remember last year, and I forget exactly when last year. But it's the subject of this interview. A series of explosions happened in Lebanon. Mossad managed to sell Hezbollah a bunch of explosive walkie-talkies. And a lot of people were saying, oh, aren't they so... Actually, no, it wasn't walkie-talkies, you know, it was pagers, yeah. People were saying, Jesus, they're so... You know, they're so technologically backwards. What are they doing using pagers? It was actually quite genius. I think it's Dave Lunduk of the Lunduk Report a brilliant crusader against the woke infiltration of open source and community driven software, the basis of the internet itself, things like Firefox and WordPress and all these different platforms that a lot of us rely on every day when we use the internet, but we're not even aware exist. It's a serious fucking problem. Anyhow, Dave Lunduk, he was at a hacker conference, and he announced to the crowd that I have this. I believe it's a BSD server. It's a bulletin board server from the fucking 90s. Very old tech. And he said, hack this. Everyone right now in the crowd, and I don't know if it was live streamed, if it was, everyone at home, try to hack my bulletin board service. And he surrendered the IP address and all identifying information. And we could see in real time people trying to get into his software, trying to hack it in common terms. Couldn't be fucking done because it was just that fucking simple. It was that basic that it lacked vulnerabilities. While more complex things have more vulnerabilities. And the thing about mobile phones and things like this, it's so easy to track them. It's so easy to intercept them. But pagers, brilliant. Yeah, just send out the signal and you get a little buzz in your pocket and you look at it, you read your message. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to go to this location and do this thing that has been prearranged. Great way to run a military organization that is continuously under threat by a foreign entity with a very sophisticated intelligence service. Well, they didn't realize that there was bombs in all of these fucking things, and they just exploded. And not only did they kill Hezbollah operatives and some higher ups in Hezbollah, they also killed fucking civilians. And it was 2, 3, 4 days or something after that when they were having funerals for these people that the surviving operatives at these funerals were mourning their dead along with, the other people in their lives, non-combatants, normal Lebanese people, that the walkie-talkies exploded, killing more civilians. This is what Israel does. This is what Mossad does. They're fucking scumbags. Let's see what Morgan has to say about his... What is that video? You're going to have to tell me. Because I'm not playing that unless I know what's in it. That looks fucking dangerous. I don't know how long we're going to go for here, folks. I might call it soon, and I might just go to Twitch and play some Abe's Odyssey. So if you want to join me over there, or you know what, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll go to Kick. Give people a reason to tune in to Kick instead of driving people towards Twitch, which is a disgusting service. I don't know why I continue to use it, even if it's just to stream my gameplay. Lightweight bastard. Yeah, Kieran. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just that, that useless these days. I've very little going for me. Right. Let's look at some Irish news. I haven't looked into this at all. This is just as new to me as it is to you, or even newer. PSNI center stage at Dublin Antifa conference. Now, this is an interesting development, right? Because if you cast your mind back to when Drew Harris was first made the Garda commissioner, he told us, first address to the public, he said, the greatest threat to Ireland right now is dissident republicanism. And starting last year, he changed that to the far right. Oh my God. Okay, we have to look at that video. All right, thanks for that, Morgan. All right, we'll look at that later. This is a continuation of this. There was a conference in Dublin, I guess, with the agenda of battling the far right in Ireland. This is the Burkean. If you're unfamiliar with the Burkean, check it out. It's a stellar publication, and it's been around for quite a while. Way longer than Gripped and all these other jokers. The left in Ireland has devoted much ink to pinning the nationalist right as a front for HM's government. Her Majesty's government? Is that what it is? With little reciprocal attention going in the opposite direction. On Monday, however, a senior PSNI constable sat down with the leading left-wing voices in fighting the far right in Ireland at a Dublin conference organised by the Irish Council of Civil Liberties to discuss policing. God, don't you just love the Orwellian fucking shit we're going through? Titled Policing of Far-Right Intimidation in the Republic of Ireland, the conference is the latest sign of the British state's growing guidance over the Irish state and political left and how to deal with the problem of upstart nationalists. The UK is already a veritable police state when it comes to free speech matters, with many Irish activists and civil servants keen to leech out established procedures from London, much to the chagrin of Republicans among their ranks. Topics discussed at the ICCL panel included how both the state and NGO left could draw on best practices and lessons learned from policing in Northern Ireland and grapple with the phenomenon of right-wing citizen journalists. Holy fucking shit. My God. If you don't know the gravity of what we just read there, I'll explain it. These cunts, the British Empire, and no offense to any of our English or otherwise British friends out there in viewerland, in the chat, we love you guys, but we don't love the British Empire. It was not good. Most people who lived under it didn't have a good time, you know? That's just the truth of the matter. Maybe there were some good aspects to it. Maybe there were some good times to be had by a lot of people. And we do need to take into consideration that life was fucking brutal, particularly at certain periods in the last 2,000 years. And maybe certain times under the British Empire, things were a little tiny bit better than they normally would be because of the British Empire. You know, I'm not going to forget the fact that it was the British Empire who were the first to outlaw slavery. That needs to be said. That needs to be recognized. However, when people decided that they don't want to be under the British Empire, they weren't treated very well. They were treated like an enemy army, you know? There weren't civil liberties for people who fought against them. You know, they didn't treat them with kid gloves. There wasn't due process for these people. There were psychological tactics used against them, as well as military tactics used against them. And a lot of those tactics, in fact, the core of psychological and military warfare against native populations was first developed in Ireland. And then, of course, it was exported. And a place where it was used with a lot of brutal precision was in Nigeria, where it was further developed. And then, of course, brought back into Ireland by, I forget what rank he had, but I think General Kitson. He brought it back at the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And you know the kind of shit that went down there. You know, if you want to know more, there's many books that you could read. The Kinahan gang was it's a widely discussed subject, and is basically the crowning jewel of just how fucking disgusting these people can be. Anne Cadwallader wrote a book about that, as well as just general collusion between the British establishment and paramilitaries, by that name, Collusion, I believe the book is called. Anne Cadwallader used to be the RT correspondent to the North at, you know, maybe, you know, not just after the height of the Troubles. Anyway, we don't want that kind of policing down here. You know, you have Drew Harris, just a disgusting, despicable human being. I'm sorry, I have nothing nice to say about that man. He has an axe to grind against the Irish. You know, we killed his father. At least that's how he thinks of it. And now he's come down here to fucking enact his retribution against us. And now we have this fucking fifth column within our country Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Fucking Red Bull does crazy things to me. Inviting this kind of policing back into our fucking uh, into our lives. It's insane. Let's continue with the Burkean article. Sorry, I went off to another fucking planet there because for me, like a sparing few down here in the south, the troubles is very very fucking close to me. You know, I I all but experienced it myself. You know. Flanked by left wing activists and counter-terror experts, Detective Inspector Andy George was among the speakers at the all-day event organized by ICCL. President of the National Black Police Association, Detective George. What? What? Sorry, that was out of left field for me. President of the National Black Police Association, Detective George, was a member of the RUC/PSNI since 1999 and came to media prominence last year for comments made regarding acquittal of a white police officer for shooting a member of a London drill gang. A London drill gang? Is that a gang that listens to drill rap? Let's check the chat here in case I'm missing something. No, I'm not, because everyone's kind of talking amongst themselves, I think. Yes, National Black Police. Okay, all right. Yeah, okay. Some of you are paying attention. All right. In January of this year, Detective George accused those objecting to PSNI recruitment of racism with his organization. Huh? Am I reading that right? In January of this year, Detective George accused those objecting to PSNI recruitment of racism with his organization, the National Black Police Association, earning repeated criticism for pushing a woke agenda within the British security apparatus. Am I the only person who, like, am I reading that wrong? Or is that just really badly written? Grammarly. Get a fucking account on Grammarly. Fuck's sake. Okay. Someone just asked me, don't play any AI drill rap. Don't worry, you're safe for now. But you've given me a really good idea. As a veteran chief inspector within the Northern Police Force, Detective George is likely to have interacted with British intelligence, specifically MI5, particularly in counterterrorism and intelligence-led operations. Absolutely. Yeah, I would imagine that the PSNI and MI5 are all but the same fucking organization. I mean, they have to be. Hardly the Quanta Brigada, La Quinta Brigada. What the fuck is that? Oh, right. Okay. So Christy Moore reference. All right. And something one suspects the ICCL and left-wing orbiters may be slow to highlight. Huh? Am I? I've been called Graham this whole time. No, Miss Pagina, I'm Howard. Jeez, we really do need name tags on the show, don't we? It's okay. I mean, Jesus Christ. I look and sound like a Graham. Fuck me. Jeez, I mean, like, you know, the association that I have with Graham, the name is Graham Norton. Am I gay to you? Is that what's going on? All right. Joining Detective George on stage was Soros-funded Hungarian academic Andrei Peto and UN counter-terror expert Finula Ni Aulin. God, I hope I pronounced that surname right. Alongside the panel of counter-terror experts and a PSNI constable was left-wing activist Desi Donnelly from the Belfast-based Rabble Cooperative that specializes in combining human rights activism with software engineering. Okay. The ICCL, the host of the day's events, has previously been highlighted for its foreign funding streams. According to Grips reporting, 90% of its revenue originates from outside the Irish state. What appears prima facie to be a forward-looking conference by a respectable NGO like the ICCL this week was a de facto security conference with the British state, and one which stinks of hypocrisy considering the current accusations of the nationalist right somehow being in the pocket of alien actions. Yeah, there's this whole thing that's been going around, and it's popped up a few times, but it popped up last week that something absurd like 70% of the posts on X in the far right aren't from Ireland. And I think that's what the author here is referring to, right? First of all, how are you getting that fucking data? Are you asking X, Twitter, X, whatever it might be? Because they're the only people who can tell you where these people are from. There's really no way to tell where a person is from. Let's just say it like that, you know. The only way that you would know is an IP address, really. And the only people with an IP address is the website that that person is accessing. You could say that, well, you know, they put out a link for an article about some kind of far right thing, and then a bunch of these far right accounts clicked on that article, and that gave the IP addresses to this organization. But you know, how do you know exactly where those IPs arrived at the page at? I'm just not buying it. I think they pulled that figure out of their asses. And someone made a good point. Let's just say, you know, that the data is legit. Well, there's a lot of people from Ireland who aren't in Ireland. In fact, there are more people outside of Ireland who are Irish than are inside Ireland. You know, and just because they left doesn't mean they don't care about their country anymore. You know, it's just. But yeah, that's an interesting observation by this Burkean author here. When a handful of foolish Coolock residents wander to Belfast It is a sign that anti-migration protests are in league with the Shankill butchers. When British security officials openly coordinate with the Irish left on how to defang migrant protests, it is swept under the carpet. Fantastic. Bula bus. Slam fucking dunk. All right. Let's read the victory lap of this article. Whatever happens in the next chapter of the Irish migration debate, one gets the feeling that London will be watching through their Irish proxies, eager to import best practices as anti-fascism takes on a very colonial bent in Ireland. Now, anyone fucking paying any amount of attention to what's going on, I think we've already fucking got this idea. You know, we already know this is what's going on, right? We're not fucking fools, are we, guys? Let's take a look at the chat here. Forgive her. That's Miss Pagina. She's from the kingdom. That's in reference to the Graham snafu. Let's see. Any feedback relating to what I just read? UN counterterrorism and expert Finula from Galway. The fuck? Yeah, that's the appropriate fucking response to that. The fuck. This KO, this conference was on in the Richmond Event Center this week. This is what sucks about doing the show myself alone. I have to pay attention to the chat for a few seconds to figure out if there's anything relevant in it. Oh, Jesus. Right. Speaking of AI music, I'm going to inflict some on you while I go away for a break. But this is a new one.
Is his wallet leather? Is his wallet fat? Another year later, but you're lying on your back.
You should have closed your windows and brought another dog. You should have chained up all the doors and switched up all the locks.
Come with me. Times have I prayed the angels would speed me away. Come with me, leather. Come with me, and walk the longest mile.
Okay. I'm gonna have to find just more unsigned, royalty-free kind of underground music to play on the show because too many of y'all just don't like AI music straight up. I think it's funny sometimes. That is a cover of The Regulator by Clutch. It's I don't know what kind of rock I would classify Clutch as. I'm not very good at describing subgenres, but they're an awesome band. I know I've said that 100 times on this show, but they really fucking are. If you haven't heard of Clutch yet, what are you doing with your life? A few days ago in the host chat, Morgan himself said, "Why the F have I not heard of Clutch before?" I said, "That's a damn good question. And I'd imagine that it's partly my fault." The Richmond Centre is the hive for NGOs in Ireland. It is the headquarters for The Wheel, the umbrella organization for the charity and community sector in Ireland. That comes from Morgan there in the chat. It's good to have him in the chat if he can't be on the show with me. It's good to have him aboard. uh, 420 said, "Sounds like you've been to a few conferences there." What the hell? Miss Pagina is a weird creature. Certainly a weird creature. Morgan is a fucking encyclopedia of the deep state in this country. He knows where a lot of the levers and pulleys are underneath the veneer of Irish society. You know, we look on the TV and we look at social media and we see this thing happening and that thing happening. Oh, look, there's Simon Harris and blah, blah, blah. But that's not how Ireland really works. You know, you even have characters like the Healy Rays, who, on a certain level, I admire. In the way that I admire El Chapo or something, you know, one of these fucking one of these cartel bosses. You know, I admire actual fucking demons, not because of what they do, but what they've achieved and how they do it, and their strange relationship with morality and their clannishness. Even the Healy Rays are, you know, kind of just minnows, you know, and the guys up front to take the flak for what's going on in this country. But you know, that's why I'm honored to do a show every week with Morgan, because he knows the real trick. And slowly but surely, he's educating us. Now we're going to explore another type of education from Morgan. Oh dear. No, that's not on loop. That's good. Whew, God, I don't know what to make of this. This is going to be interesting. The title is Who Rode Muhammad All Night and Why? Okay, let's take a look.
Hilarious debate on an Arabic religious program that... Okay, I recently watched a hilarious debate on an Arabic religious program that once again reminded me of the importance of the hadith. So let's have a quick discussion about it. Cherished by Muslims for containing the instructive and edifying words and deeds of their beloved Prophet Muhammad, the hadith also serves as one of the most potent weapons, one of the most potent polemics against Islam. It is, in fact, a double-edged sword, so let's look into it. Before unpacking this strange irony, however, a little relevant background. In an earlier video, I said that although those Western people who insist that Muhammad never existed dismiss the hadith as forgeries, the hadith actually do lend credence to the existence of an Arabian prophet, though indirectly. Why did I say this? Because if they were later forgeries meant to create a sacred foundational story for Islam centering around a noble and righteous prophet, why do so many of them present Muhammad in a very unflattering light, as does the hadith we will soon be examining? The most common rebuttal to this observation, appearing in the comments section of that video, see, I do read them, went as follows.
Sir, you need to understand, things that seem strange to us moderns were normal among the Arabs of the time.
No, I do understand that. Really, I do. And even in that previous video, had given as an example the notorious rror al-Kibir hadith, whereby Muhammad told a woman to breastfeed a man. That is, to thrust her breast in a grown man's mouth as a way of making him her son.
Brother, what's that?
Considering the conservative, patriarchic, and hyper-tribalism of 7th century Arabia, trust me when I say that Muhammad was introducing a radical and shocking idea, even then. Which brings me to my point. How the Arabic program I recently watched validated these 2 points. First, that the bizarre and unflattering accounts of Muhammad contained in the hadith contradict the idea that the hadith is a later forgery meant to give Islam a noble foundational story revolving around a pious and upright prophet. And, much more importantly, second, that the hadith, because it does capture the essence of Muhammad, remains the chief weapon against Islam. Now, the debate I watched centered around a hadith that, though long hidden, first started reaching the general populace of the Arabic-speaking world via satellite programs, I'd say around 2015-ish or so. I first wrote an article about it in 2022, link in description. This odd hadith, which I'm about to narrate, appears in several hadith collections, including the highly esteemed Musnad of Ibn Hanbal, founder of one of Islam's 4 schools of laws, or madhahib, as well as in many other well-respected Islamic texts, all of which are being taught in Al-Azhar, and all of which I have listed volume and page numbers in the description of this video. The hadith, which is narrated by Abdullah bin Mas'ud, a companion of the Prophet and one of Islam's most reliable and trustworthy transmitters of hadith, goes as follows. Brace yourself. Abdullah begins by telling us that Muhammad called on him to accompany him on a trip into the desert. When they reached a certain place and night had fallen, Muhammad made a line in the sand, most likely a circle, and told Abdullah, quote, "Stay behind this line and do not cross it, for if you do, you will die." Muhammad then left his startled companion and walked into the desert night, about the distance of a hurled stone, says Abdullah. Before long, our narrator saw a group of men, he does not specify how many, who, quote, appeared to be al-Zut. He describes them as, quote, tall, lean, and naked. Other Islamic sources say these Zut were a black-skinned people, and we'll get into that later. After describing them, Abdullah goes on, and here's the problematic part, to say, quote, they went to and began to ride the Prophet of Allah. Literally, that's what the Arabic says. These tall, black, naked men rode Muhammad. The Arabic word yarkabun, which I will presently discuss, can also be translated as mounted. And they did this all night long, says Abdullah. During which time they would also come and circle around and try to reach him, but they were prevented, apparently from the line of protection Muhammad had drawn in the sand for his companion. Abdullah concludes his narration, quote, I was extremely terrified by them, so I sat down. With the coming of dawn, they began to depart. Then the Prophet of Allah returned, slowly and in pain, from that which they did while riding him. According to another narration found in several Islamic texts, including Akhbar Mecca by Al-Fakahi, Muhammad complained to Abdullah that, quote, they wounded me all night long, at which point the Prophet proceeds to lay his head and fall asleep in Abdullah's lap. Needless to say, the highly unflattering implications of this hadith are clear. But it becomes even more scandalous once one brings in what several other Islamic reference books and histories say. For starters, who are these al-Zut, these naked men who rode Muhammad all night long? According to Islam's written records, they were a migrant people from India or modern-day Pakistan, described in the sources as very tall, very dark-skinned, very lean, strong and hardy, and often used for labor-intensive work. In early Arabic ethnographies and literary works, al-Zut are also depicted as being very sexual and virile, with very large penises. In fact, according to one Arabic source, Al-Tashibbahat by Ibn Abi Awan, quote, the penis of al-Zut never weakens, meaning their large phalluses never go limp and are ever ready. I'm sorry for the crude language, but this is what the Islamic texts say, verbatim. Now let's talk about the Arabic word translated as ride, as in al-Zut rode the Prophet. Not only does it have the same exact meaning in English, as in to ride a horse, for example, but it carries the same slang meaning, as in copulating with a woman. In fact, several Islamic sources use it literally to mean sex. For example, while commenting on the famous hadith, also in Musnad ibn Hanbal, where Muhammad says, quote, women, dogs, and donkeys cancel a man's prayer, Al-Qurtubi, one of Islam's most celebrated commentators of the Quran, elaborates by saying, quote, a woman may be compared to a cow, horse, or camel, for all are ridden. It's also interesting to note that when al-Zut begins circling and trying to reach our terrified narrator, Abdullah, his first instinct was to sit down. Was he trying to hide and protect that one part of his body, which these naked men were apparently trying to access? That is, his bottom, by sitting down. Again, as I think you can see, this hadith is scandalous. Not the sort of thing you'd expect people who want to fabricate an honorable prophet would make up. Nor, I can assure you, was such a deed, done hidden in the desert night, deemed normal or acceptable among the Arabs of Muhammad's time. Now, during the debates I've watched over this hadith, others, including many former Muslims, regularly make even more troubling connections. For example, they cite the well-known hadith where Muhammad is asked, quote, will the people of paradise have sex? And his answer, quote, yes, with a vagina that never tires and a penis that never weakens. The phrase a penis that never weakens is identical to the aforementioned description of al-Zut's genitalia, suggesting, as many former Muslims are quick to point out, that Muhammad so enjoyed his night with these naked black men that he went on to secretly enshrine its most notable aspect, powerful penises that never weaken or slacken, as a characterization of paradise, and possibly as an inside joke with himself. To sum up, based on numerous Islamic texts, especially Musnad ibn Hanbal and al-Qurtubi's tafsir, and several other historical and ethnographical texts, again, see this video's description for references, how this hadith is understood, especially by ex-Muslims who cite it as cause for their apostasy, is as follows. And before I proceed, please note that the following summary is not based on my thoughts or words, but rather the words of first, as we saw, well-respected Muslim texts, and second, those who use this hadith as a polemic against Islam. I'm trying to give you an idea of what is being said and how this hadith is being presented in these debates that often flare out between Muslims. All right, here we go. Muhammad took his close companion, Abdullah, into the desert at night. He warned him to wait behind a line and went off at a distance, apparently for a pre-planned rendezvous. Before long, Abdullah saw several naked men from the people of al-Zut appear, described in the sources as tall, lean, virile, and with large penises. These men then took turns riding or mounting the Prophet all night long. They also tried to reach him, but Abdullah immediately sat down, apparently to protect that one part of his body they were trying to access. As the sun rose, these naked men began to depart, even as Muhammad returned in pain, limping towards Abdullah and saying how al-Zut had injured him. He then lays in his companion's lap and falls asleep. Finally, as a reflection of what Muhammad thought of that night, he went on to enshrine it as an aspect of paradise where the, quote, penis never weakens, end quote. Okay, that's what's being said and what loud shouting matches take place over. I've personally watched several satellite Arabic language shows where Muslims call in and ask an expert sheikh about this hadith. Typical responses are that 1. Al-Zut were not humans, but rather jinn. 2. This occurred during Muhammad's famous meeting with the jinn, known in Islamic tradition as the Night of the Jinn, when the Prophet recited the Quran to them. And 3, it's known that Abdullah bin Mas'ud was not present with Muhammad during the Night of the Jinn, so therefore this hadith must be weak and likely fabricated. Such are the responses against this hadith. As we have seen, however, and as those who use this hadith as a polemic against Islam point out, the earliest references to al-Zut all depict them as humans. And dismissing the hadith as weak on the claim that Abdullah was not present for the night of the jinn is itself very weak, since the night in question had nothing to do with the jinn. Meaning there is no reason to doubt the words of Abdullah, a chief and highly trusted transmitter of hadith. By the way, I decided to ask ChatGPT what it thought were innocent and non-loaded questions, and as might be expected, it answered me honestly enough. First, I asked it whether al-Zut were humans or jinn, to which it responded, quote, in Muslim historical sources, the Zut were consistently described as humans, not jinn. They were portrayed as a real ethnic group, most often associated with India or Sindh, modern-day Pakistan, and as a migrant labor or military class. They are also described as a rebellious and militarily capable people. I then asked ChatGPT to give me a physical description of al-Zut based on early Arabic sources, and it said, quote, in literary and anecdotal texts, they are grouped together with other southern or dark-skinned people, all of whom have the following traits: sexual potency, prominent genitalia, and associations with physical strength and virility. Anyway, so there you have it. Here is a perfect example of why the hadith should not be so quickly dismissed as later forgeries meant to present an honorable prophet, and here is a perfect example of how the hadith is being used as a powerful weapon against Islam.
Okay, I did absolutely nothing during that video. I just let it play because I was just in shock the whole time, and I didn't have anything to add anyway. I couldn't have improved it beyond what it already was. That's from Raymond Ibrahim on YouTube. And the video is who rode Muhammad all night long and why. I think that just finished me off, guys. That was just a bridge too fucking far for me. I'm just in a state of shock now. Huh. And the chat has fallen silent. Are we? Have we been kicked off of YouTube? No, we haven't. Good. Whew. All right. So, for discussion in the chat, I see Kulok. Yeah. So last week, as mentioned on the show, we won. Kulok has the Crown Paints building has been taken off of the list of an intended iPass center. But as pointed out by Paul O'Neill here, there's multiple properties in the area that are now, I'd imagine, mini iPass centers. I forget the exact numbers and details, but a good friend of mine lives in a rural-ish area. You know, a little bit out from one of those towns you pass through when you go from one big town to the city, kind of thing. Now, down the road from him, on his country road, is a 4 or 5 bedroom house, and that has been rented out to iPass. It's basically an iPass center because there's an insane number of fellas in there, something like 30 or 40, definitely high up there in the double digits. How they fit that amount of people in there is a fucking mystery, really. Luckily, according to my friend, it's bad. You know, it just shouldn't be happening at all. However, you know, the fella who has rented out his house to iPass is doing a good job. You know, he's making sure that it's contained, you know. He goes there with a minibus and he brings them to places and, you know, makes sure that they are occupied and not just milling about causing trouble, you know. So he's got it firmly secured. But it's insane the amount of people that they can cram into such a tight space. And I think that might actually be the the plan for the Kulak area. What's 420 saying? Do you not sense something is staring, Paul? I'm seeing attitudes change outside Dublin. Lefties down my way are daring to talk about the problem. Yeah, what's the definition of lefties? I mean, is that just average Irish people? Paul O'Neill comes back with 420. Leo met Chinese PM recently and Chinese investors. Leo's selling Irish housing market to Chinese. Yeah, that's a story that a lot of countries have. Yes, 420, it will affect the lefties too. They called for all of this, but didn't realize it was on their doorstep. Yeah, the NIMBYism can only go so far. Not in my backyard. You know, the guys in the fancy parts of Dublin, they can put a stop to these centres, but you know, the poor guys, you know, the poor lefties, the the university student lefties, the powerless lefties, just as powerless as the working class and the underclass, well, they're fucked too, and it's going to be glorious. There's some hippie towns and stuff that are undergoing this dramatic transformation here in the west of Ireland, and it's great to see. It's great to see these people finally wake up to the consequences of their fucking decisions, their lofty fucking ideals that have been abstract up until now. 420 says Chinese own everything on the main streets, brother, in every town. I don't know about that. I don't know about that yet. Probably in response to 420 asking the question about something shifting. Paul O'Neill responds, the nation, the people have got to realize we are truly in a bad place, basically fucked. Realize the problem, voting, protesting, not fixing this, nobody coming to save us, then we might start getting somewhere. Yup. Yeah, that's the condition that we are currently in. I don't know what to make of all of this voting register fiasco. Something like an extra million people are on the register. 1 million people more than there are voting age adults in the state. Now, that's not just an extra 1 million voters. You have to take into consideration that quite a lot of voting age adults aren't even on the register. Our country is full of people who just, they've never had an interest in voting and they never will vote. Some of them lately, in the last few voting cycles and the last few referenda, have gone out of their way to go on the register and get a voting card. And, a lot of those people, when the time came, they probably didn't. I have a friend who was, he has concerns just as much as we do. In fact, more. He's been around doing stuff in support of these issues for decades now, and he was saying, "Oh, people should get out and vote," and blah blah blah. And I said to him, "Yeah, I'm off now to the voting booth. Going to cast my vote, and I think I'm going to go for X, Y, and Z." And he says, "Yeah, I won't be voting." And I asked, "Why?" He says, "Well, I'm busy. I work." Because, he can't, take time off fucking work and go to the local fucking primary school or whatever it might be in his part of the country and just, put a few ticks on a piece of paper. But it's a strange land we live in. Ah. Right. Where are we taking this night? I'm acutely aware that once I end this stream, then this chat disappears. And everyone in it is is happy with each other's company. So I'm going to do my best to avoid that killing that for a little while. My God, that flask keeps the coffee roasting. It comes at a shock. You pour yourself some coffee out of a flask and it cools down gradually, and then you pour some more and you get scalded. Let me think. Where are we go? Where are we taking this? Ah, yeah, here we go. Here's a local in a local kerfuffle in Dublin 1. If anyone knows what this area is called, I've completely forgot about it. Ralton House iPass Centre. Here's a TD who decided to come down and preach to the locals.
Yeah, who are you?
Marie Sherlock is my name. I'm a TD in the area as well.
I don't know you, so...
Yeah, I know, but I'm only newly elected,
Yeah.
right? Okay, since December. No, wait a second now, right? Okay, so the first thing is, this building has been left derelict for how many years?
Yeah, it should have been put into a community centre.
Right? Okay, so the thing is...
There's not for the kids around here. There's no facilities for the iPads meant to go into that building. For you are standing there trying to back us up and you are agreeing with them building. You don't have to say and you agree with them iPads building.
Sorry, we're here just to...
Now!
Right? Because we've come down. I was down talking to Nick today. I'm here because I want to talk to you. And I suppose
She claims to want to talk to the people, but she's clearly just talking at them. Fair enough. They're talking at her. I mean, that's fine. You know, that happens. But, you know, they're the disgruntled electorate, and she's their representative, you know. She needs to shut the fuck up and ask them their thoughts. That's how this works. But no, that's not what these people are about. I did a quick Google search of Marie Sherlock, and you know, it's not good, man. The first impression isn't fantastic. She comes across as just a terrible person altogether. And I think that's just her MO, is to just preach to people. She clearly got this job because she wants to be a little fucking mini Hitler.
The first thing is, right, this is a derelict building that should not be empty, right?
No, it shouldn't be used for the area.
Of course, right, okay.
We've nothing around this area. The children don't have a playground, nothing.
So that is our first thing, right, okay? This building no longer remains empty and is pushed to use.
Daddy's got the time for it.
Right, okay. So the second key thing is, right, we've been told by the Department, right, okay, of Justice, that there is nobody going into that centre, right, okay?
They're all bleeding liars.
No, but sorry, right, we have to...
No, you said you listen to us. They're nothing but poxy liars. It's not your doorstep they're being fucked on, it's ours. Hang on a minute, how about we put it outside your door? How would you fucking feel about it?
What I'm coming down to say to you is, right, we've spoken to the Minister, right? He is very clear that it's having left...
Will it never be used as an iPass, though? Never.
There's people across the city, right, who are looking to raise money, right? Make millions of euros out of the municipal. I wasn't allowed to finish with that. Out of opening some of these centres.
They have been taken, yes, by the department.
Hold on for 1 second. Have nowhere, absolutely nowhere. This is where the kids play, on this road and on Portland Place.
And we need to change that.
We got it from when they built the apartments. They gave us a football pitch and a playground. The playground was taken over by now. The people walking on the Playground is just closed up. That's stopped. So even for the even after the works are finished, that the playground stop. We need to change that. So it's not hang around here for the kids. We have that in mind that it's not.
To be fair to the woman, you know, she kind of relented, you know. Oh wow, okay. Sherlock got Hutch's transfers. Huh. Okay, so the people who voted for Jerry Hutch after he was eliminated, his votes went to her. Oh, that's great. That's just lovely.
We want it in writing in black and white.
That's it. So there's no proposal. There's no proposal at the moment. And my interest right now is making sure that this city is awash with empty, derelict buildings. And what we need to kids even to the local park. And what we need to do is make sure that those buildings, right, are being pushed to use for the community, right? And there are people, vulnerable people, who are in this city who need accommodation, right? And therefore, for the grace of God, to go any of us within our own families in terms of somebody becoming homeless or somebody coming to this country with dignity. So
what about the people lying on O'Connell Street?
Does anyone out there in the chat know the background to this current hotspot in Dublin 1? Because a new one to me. I have to wonder what the story is with this woman. What her angle is here. Let's take a look on Google, shall we? All right. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not necessarily her fault. You know, that could have just been extra.ie's you know, choice of pictures. You know, the media love to get pictures of people in you know, politicians in particular in compromised kind of moments. Ah, the Labour Party. All right. Let's read about Mary Sherlock. Oh, more about me. Come on. All right. Why I got involved in politics. Let's hear her angle. All right. Access to a decent and sustainable quality of life should not be a lottery of birth, merit, or luck. Okay. Yet in our communities and in workplaces, I see so much inequality, and I very much believe we can do better. It's just fucking dull boilerplate shite. Whether that is ensuring fair wages and conditions, combating the hugely unequal access to housing and to healthcare in our country, or ensuring that our communities and streets prioritize the interests of all residents, pedestrians, and cyclists, and not just recognized as commuter corridors. Prior to politics, I had spent over 10 years in a trade union talking and advocating on the biggest policy issues affecting workers, families, and our country. But it's not enough to talk about the issues. I decided to try and work directly to bring about change. I got involved in politics to fight for a vision of Ireland with workers' rights and a thriving national culture at its core. Some of my main priority areas so far have been writing a new law which would guarantee paid sick leave for every worker, Wait. Every worker. Paid sick leave. Wait. Wow, okay. I don't know the ins and outs of that. Maybe it's required. I don't know. I've never been ill enough that I needed sick leave. I've never really known anyone who needed sick leave, to the point that it was like ruining their lives because they couldn't show up for work. Maybe I'm just, privileged in that way. And the people around me are privileged that way. Pushing for stronger protections for people working from home. All right. Tackling unpaid internships and ensuring everyone is paid fairly for their work. Oh, Jesus Christ. What's wrong with unpaid internships? Why are we trying to tackle unpaid like that's such violent fucking imagery. Tackling unpaid it's like tackling crime, tackling corruption. It's like going to war with it, picking a fight with it. Is that really necessary? I mean, how many people are in unpaid internships? This isn't the fucking United States where like everyone is being fucking worked to the bone as basically indentured servants until they earn their freedom, and then suddenly they get a salary. And even then it's white collar work. They're working in a radio station, they're working in a law firm, something like this, where they're genuinely learning the ropes, and in exchange for that they pay with their labor. And because they are from the white collar community, they're living with their parents and they're getting their room and board from their parents. Maybe they have a little side hustle or something where they have a little bit of spending money, or maybe their parents are rich enough that they can give an allowance to their children while they are an intern. And then what happens after a few years? They get a job because they've had this experience. What's wrong with that? It's not like someone's washing fucking dishes in a fucking kitchen in some hotel or something, and they're not being paid. This is your internship. You're learning how to wash dishes. I'm not saying that's a job completely devoid of skill, but it's you pick it up easy enough, or you're under a quasi manager who tells you what to do when it needs to be done, and you pick up the ropes from there, and you get paid a standard wage. I don't understand unpaid interns. Is this a big problem in Ireland? All right. Fighting for artists, event workers, and local media to have the supports they need. Isn't that already a thing? Calling for more funding for Irish language broadcasting. All right. I'm unfamiliar with the needs and requirements of Irish language broadcasting. I thought that they had an even slice of the TV license and things like that, and public broadcasting money from the budget, but hey ho. My priorities. First and foremost, I believe that all change must be local. Dublin Central is a thriving collection of communities. But we can do so much more to make it a better place to live, raise our families, and grow old. Working together as communities, not a community, communities, so we already know what she's about. I know that we can ensure that that everyone has access to affordable long-term housing and that we meet the real housing needs of the community rather than building excessive student accommodation, co-living, and build-to-rent developments. That our urban villages are recognized as thriving centers of activity and not just commuter corridors. We need to ensure that the safety of pedestrians and cyclists is prioritized, that there are adequate arts and cultural spaces so that all residents can participate, and that we ensure no child is excluded from sport and physical activity because of a lack of playing space. That we have access to good air quality for all areas of Dublin Central, ensuring that people's health is protected along with our environment. So what does that mean? Less cars because, coal is already banned. Um, uh, Big Tips Lover. What the fuck? You guys have such weird names in the chat. I will never know the obsession with ancestry. Isn't knowing your current family bad enough? Very funny. 420 says, I'm staring at a sink full of dishes now. I'm feeling guilty. Well, I mean, jump in there, man. Jump in there. Just get it done. What is it? 10 minutes? 15 minutes? You've got the show to kind of, just be in the background there, and then when you get back, you can kind of chill out and, talk with your friends in the chat a little more. Miss Pagina says, for fuck's sake, they write these bullshit leaflets to fool people into voting them in. Kieran says, don't question us, we own you, Howard. Yeah. I'm your bitch, I'm staying here and just trying to muddle through and prolong this agony for your satisfaction, just so that you can keep chatting in the chat room and have something going on in the background while you do your thing, while you have your little secret IRA meeting there in the chat room. My background: a proud Corkonian, but Dublin is now home. After being elected as a senator in 2019, I worked as head of policy and equality for SIPTU, Ireland's largest trade union. While working for SIPTU, I was elected as councillor for Cabra Glasnevin electoral area in 2019. Huh? Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, I was a little confused by the chronology there. I've been extremely fortunate in that I came to Dublin 20 years ago with the benefit of the grant and undertook a degree in economics and politics from TCD. The grant. What is the grant? There's just one grant, is there, in the whole country? And she got it? Is that what I'm supposed to read from that sentence? And why is it in quotes? Is it not a grant? It's just it's something else, something sinister or something. Jesus Christ, what the hell is this woman on about? I then went on to undertake on an MPhil. What's an MPhil? Master of Philosophy. Brilliant. In Cambridge University in regional, urban, and environmental economics, land economy. Okay. My time working for SIP2 has spanned the end of the boom days of the 2000s, the devastating economic crash, and the years recovering from that period. she thinks we recovered. That's funny. Throughout this time, I've worked on the biggest issues for workers, pay and conditions, public finances, housing, skills, and health. I've also served on the government's Labour Market Council and the Advisory Group on Tax and Social Welfare, and was a member of the Central Statistics Office High-Level Consultative Group on the reporting of the national accounts in 2016. Jeez. She's really deep in that deep state, isn't she? Since being elected, I have brought forward legislation to introduce paid sick leave for every worker, provide strong protections for people from working at home, and the right to switch off. Yep. Yeah, you're promoting the problem and then offering the solution. People shouldn't be working from home. That's just, I mean, as a socialist, in the Labour Party, I think really you should be totally against working from home. Just don't make protections for people working from home. Just stop it from happening, because the inevitable conclusion of working from home is that you can't switch off. So then you need even more legislation to make sure that employers give employees the right to switch off. And then it's just a big fucking mess. You're not a real socialist. Go fuck yourself. All right. Regulate platform work and eliminate bogus self-employment. What's platform work? And what's bogus self-employment? Anyone out there know what the fuck she's talking about? Ban unpaid internships and ensure everyone is paid for fair. Oh my God. Jesus. Some lines of work are really hard to get into, and unpaid internships are a way to get into those lines of work. But she doesn't care. She's just going to take that away from people. You know why? Because she doesn't like the middle class, even though she is middle class. She has a self-hatred in her that she wants to destroy her own economic class. She wants to make people poor and keep them poor. Let's just call a spade a spade. I've also campaigned to ensure better income supports for artists and arts workers and the provision of more state-funded arts and cultural space. Arts and cultural space, that's nice. I like that part. I live in Pittsburgh with my husband, Kieran, and our 3 young children. Good for you. Clubs and committees. Na Fianna CLG. Dublin Cycling Campaign. Yay. Bohemians Football Club. Okay. Well, What's she doing in that club? Pittsburgh Village Tidy Towns Committee. Could you? My command of the Irish language is just absolute horseshit. SIP2. Of course, she's still in fucking SIP2. Social and Statistical Inquiry Society of Ireland. Oireachtas Women's Caucus and Oireachtas All-Party Group on Sexual and Reproductive Health Rights. Great. She's all over the shop, she is. Now, what do we have in the chat here? Sorry, I have the motivation of a fucking potato tonight, folks. I'm just going to rely on the people watching and chatting for my content. Jesus Christ, man. Our chat has really gone off the rails. I heard a banana a day cleans your colon. Then I found out you're meant to eat them. That's a big tips, lover. Thanks for that. Okay, yeah, finally, something to do with the actual fucking subject. Lady of Air 2 says she wants lockdowns. That's the idea I get from her. Lockdown's back, rather. That's the idea I get from her. Work from home. Yeah. Yeah, because, she works from home. I mean, yeah, of course, she's got to go into the Shannon or she's got to go into the Doll. She has to go to the odd SIP2 meeting or the Kyoju meeting. What's this? I really should look that up. Aims to support parents in order to help make parenthood the joy it should be. Okay, that's cool. I guess on the surface, I can't complain about that. But yeah, otherwise, she works from home. She has a home office and, she sits down, makes phone calls and pecks out letters on her keyboard and writes emails and all this and going out to pretend to listen to the locals. That was probably her idea of exercise. So everyone else has to live like her, I'd imagine. I'm just speculating. Saying the most absurd thing that can come to mind because I have to entertain myself somehow. KO says she wants people paid for doing nothing but having a job title, artists, people off sick, and those WFH. Yeah, I mean, look, there's something to be said for supporting the arts. I mean, it is important. Back in the day, I'm talking about pre-modern eras, Victorian times and earlier, going back all the way to ancient fucking Greece. You had the patrician class, the lords and the barons and the royalty. They'd meet an artist, say, I like what you're doing. I'm going to pay you just for existing, as long as you just keep doing that art that you do. Infinite supply of coffee from this flask. And great works of art were created. Some of these people were commissioned to paint fucking chapels or just design them. Chapels, rather cathedrals, churches, stately fucking buildings, you know? They painted, they sculpted, they made monuments. And you can't have a society that doesn't have a mechanism to fund the arts. You know, you can't have the artists out there making beautiful things, whether that's painting, sculpting, making music, designing buildings, and have those people walking around the street with their hat saying, hey, if you like what I do, put some coins in my hat because I need to pay my rent and I need to eat. Because people don't pay artists. Okay? Only the rich pay artists. They're called patrons. I'm sorry, but I don't pay artists that I enjoy because I'm just fucking stingy. And you don't pay artists either, I'm going to guess. So someone has to. But the problem is that it's kind of nobody has a vested interest in it because the money that is being paid to support artists now is nobody's money. You know, it's all this money that's being extracted from us through taxes in the various forms, fines for speeding and fines for this and fines for that, and processing fees for, you need to put in for your license to drive and you need to put in for that form and a few quid here, a few quid there. It all adds up into this big pile of money, and then someone who is has no real stake in that money whatsoever decides how much of that money goes to artists. And then there's this kind of pretense of making sure that actual art gets made, but that doesn't really work out well because nobody cares. It's just a box ticking procedure. And worse yet, NGOs get involved and they say, well, we want you to make art that celebrates multiculturalism and LGBTQI plus lifestyles. And then you have state propaganda disguised as art. And that's the problem we're in. So it's not the problem of artists as a class of people, okay? It's the particular kinds of artists that are being funded. So let's not lose track of that. Let's not fucking, go full fucking, I don't know what it is, it's because, even fucking Mussolini and Hitler funded the arts, I don't know what the hell what direction we're going in. Just because the left does something or wants something doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just done incorrectly. Miss Pegina, I've gone through loads of Brillo pads after burning pots watching Lady of Air and the rest of ye on live streams, for fuck's sake. You need to get yourself a slow cooker there, Missy. That's the elite way of cooking. What's this? Big tips. Big tips. What is this joke I'm clearly missing out on here? Oh, I'm tired. Oh, guys, I'm gonna check out. And you know what? I'm going to go take a break for 10 minutes, and I'm going to fire up a stream on Kick. Let me just bring up that let's just bring up that QR code, and I will drop a link in the chat, and I will be over there, and I will probably be playing Abe's Odyssey, which is a favorite of mine from the olden days. One of the olden days, anyway. Fucking the late 90s, wasn't it? The release of the PlayStation was a fucking trip because up until then, at least for me, it was just fucking the Sega Master System. That was the height of. Oh no, I'm wrong. Fucking Sega Dreamcast with Laura Croft and her inexplicably pointy boobs. Well, thank you, 420. Well done, brother. 3 hours without Morgan. I'm shocked myself because I'm just so used to having the fella around that if I stop talking for half a second and he immediately picks up the torch and then runs with it. It's like a relay match. It's incredible the amount of brain power that's required to go it alone. Even if it is just to talk absolute shite like I have to you for the last 3 hours. It's 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 a feat and a half. I used to do it quite well between 2012 and fuck me, was it 2021? Morgan joined the anti-broadcast, and even then it was just audio. I think it was easier when it was just audio because I didn't have to think about what's showing up on the screen. Didn't have to keep you captivated with moving colors and stuff. Is Howard Irish? I just subbed. Big tips. Yes, I am. I'm here in South Galway, native of Northern Ireland, and I sound weird because I moved to Galway very, very young. Was bullied for my Belfast accent. Like I literally had stones thrown at me one day because a bunch of knackers thought I was English. They were shouting at me, "Get the fuck out, you English fuck," or something along those lines. The height of fucking ignorance. They didn't even realize who they were throwing stones at. The grandson of one of their fucking founding fathers. So I turned to American television to learn how to talk normal. I remember a particular time I was on a school outing in Galway with a friend, with a classmate, walking around somewhere. I don't know. Somehow they let us off to walk around. God, the 90s were a great time, you know. Like nowadays, I think it's extremely rare for kids to be brought out on what Americans would call a field trip, an outing for a day. Going to we were going to some leisure fucking place with fucking laser quest and fucking bowling, some kind of leisure center. But to be let out to walk to some other building unsupervised, fucking unheard of these days. But I said the word bag. But bag. I can't even fucking replicate the Northern Irish accent now. And he took the piss out of me relentlessly for it. He's like, what the fuck? That's not a word. That's not how you pronounce bag. He had no idea, but he was giving me fucking CPTSD at that point. It's like, Jesus Christ. Me at a fundamental level, I'm being rejected as a person. The 90s were a blur for 420 audits. What were you were you lucky enough to be out in the clubs and get that real MDMA and listen to that real fucking music? I'm gonna guess that you were one of those guys. Man, those people were so lucky. Yeah, I have my degenerate side. But yes, certainly I'm Irish. I'm as Irish as the fucking hills and the trees. I love this country. I'm not mad about the people right now. But, you know, every civilization goes through its golden years and, golden era, and then slides into a kind of a state of degeneracy and disrepair. But we will be back. We will be back. Will it be another generation from now or another 10 generations from now? I'm not sure, but we will return. Miss Pagina says, I went to Ibiza once, Howard. I nearly survived. Oh, God. 420 says, Mad Bastards, the Asylum. Big Tips Lover says, I used to go to the Hacienda, drug-free. It was a blast, though. Yeah, look. The vibes. You know, you've got the right music. You got the right people. And the location. You know, it helps. It's not necessary, but it helps. I once went to a rave up in the fucking not a mountain, just a hilly area with pine trees all around. Got the shit bit out of me by midgies. I haven't seen midgies like that in 20 years prior. But man, it was great. You know, the vibe was great. Even though it was damp, not quite raining, but you know, that kind of early summer mugginess. Perfect for getting bitten. But yeah, drug free, that works too. But man, if you get the right pure shit, go on a decent roll. Something else entirely. You can't name it. You can't compare it. 420 says, Oh yeah, KO says the 90s was for me the best time ever, just before mobiles and all this BS. Fuck me, man, KO. I I was a fucking child in the 90s, but I remember enough of it to know, yeah, that was the end of all fucking sensibility and sanity and the true heart of the world, really, Ireland and world in general. You know, it's I often wish for a portal to just open up where I could just walk through, and you know what? I don't mind. I don't mind living with fucking 2 channels on the TV, um, the nascent internet. You know, that sounds like fun. You know, BSD, fucking, you know, Telnet. Give me it all. I'd love that. Um, oh shit, you know what? The internet. Okay, right. Ah, there we go. Okay. Get a load of. We're going to watch the beginning of this video, and not all of it, but just the analog. You know, uh, I was thinking about this. I think about this a lot, guys. The 90s, right? I mean, if I had my choice of time to go to and stay in, that's it, because you know you already had the 80s and you have the bulk of what was good about the 80s still alive in the 90s, and then you had the precipice of technology, you know, the hope of it all. And you also had the end of the Cold War, so it was a collective, a cultural sigh of relief and letting go. And that's what rave was all about, and that's what the technological revolution was all about. You know, it was optimism. So I would live there if I had the choice. All right, so this is good. Just watch this with me. This is the internet used to be a place.
The family computer sits on a towering wooden desk, surrounded by CDs and loose papers. After getting home from school, you had dropped your backpack by the door and scrambled up the stairs. It had taken a little negotiating, but you've been granted 30 minutes of internet use. The dial-up is agonizingly slow to connect. Its loud and discordant tone feels like an announcement to the household that you are now tying up the phone line. When the browser finally loads, you race through your tasks. You feed your Neopets from the giant omelet, you check the news on Yahooligans, news being dinosaur facts, but best of all, you have a reply from your pen pal. You learn she has a hamster and her favorite color is purple. You barely have time to peck out a response when the call comes from downstairs. Time's up. The screen goes dark, you shut the door behind you, and just like that, it was over. You never gave much thought to the act of logging off. It felt like turning off a light, a non-event. We didn't question the boundaries between spaces because we assumed they would always be there. We moved through rooms, we crossed thresholds, we arrived, and we left. The internet lived in a room, and that room had a door. It took a long time to notice when the door went missing.
Okay, we're going to cut it there because it goes off, and as you can see, it goes for another 22 minutes. 23 minutes, rather. And yeah, she goes into fucking woke shit. But that minute and a half was an absolute masterpiece. Honestly, I'd be surprised if she didn't upload that to Instagram or Facebook as a reel. Because it's the exact fucking length that you want. But this is it, man. The door disappeared. The door fucking disappeared. Even if you aren't yourself fucking at a loose moment, taking out your phone and looking at fucking Twitter or something, or if an unhealthy amount of conversations with the people in your life aren't surrounded with fucking TikTok videos or what have you, you're still impacted by it. You know, this culture of hyper politicization of everything, trans stuff. This is all the product of the fucking globalized internet. You know, there was a time when it was restricted by the speed of dial-up, and it was restricted by the affordability of home computers, to the lack of mobile devices to connect to the internet, and their capability to present the internet to us. It was a bad direction. We just went down a really bad fucking direction. It's a virus. You know, I'm going to go on that break. But I'm going to leave you during that break with a collection of AI music to give you guys a little bit of time to say goodnight to each other, or find an alternative venue to carry on your conversations, you're getting to know each other's. I would recommend our Discord server for that. Let's see. Let's get that invite link for the chat. There we go. I don't know how many people out there use Discord, but it's a possibility, and it doesn't take much to sign up. I mean, it's just an awful place altogether, but it's the best option that we have. And alternatively, there is also kick.com / the anti-broadcast, and I will be there later to play games. Slán agus Iowa Pagina. We will see you next week. Night, everyone. KO says, good on you, Solo Howard. Thanks, KO. South Galway, the home of UN counter-right terrorism. Galway is a fucking dump for this kind of ideology. However, it is my adopted home, so I have to love it. You know, we can't choose our family, can we? All right, good night, folks. Hope to see you over on Kick.
I march no longer, I fight no more. You can send out all the tracks never lost, but I'm done with war. Wind him up, bring him back. Conscript deserter. The worm drink is loose. Wind him up, bring him back. Conscript deserter. The proof is in the juice. O'Connell's Boulevard, Phoenix Park, TikTok liquor, Thunderbird. And now that we have totally lost all composure, we will wither from exposure beneath the sun. Dun, 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 dun. Wind him up, bring him back. Conscript deserter. The worm drink is loose. Wind him up, bring him back. Conscript deserter. The proof is in the juice. If you see me at the bottom, please bring me my running shoes. And if you see me getting caught up, yet you know what to do. I'll march no longer. I'm done with war. Send out your snivellers, but I'll march no more. I'll march no longer. I'm done with war. Send out your snivellers, but I'll march no more. wisdom from years of keeping the peace. He turns nervous drivers into masters with ease. A touch of CBT and a hint of TA. He leads them gently through the fray. By your side, with steady hands and a patient guide. From the first gear shift to the final test, he brings out the driver's very best. First meeting Adam, we drove to a quiet lane. Show me your skills, he said, let's ease the strain. He saw through the nerves to the core of my skill. Laid out a plan with precision and will. Twice the lessons in a single week. He balanced praise and critique so sleek. Achievements acknowledged, weaknesses framed.